So are the Inhumans. That's an easy. And if that takes the whole time, then I won't talk about all the other nonsense I've thought about. But yes, I do want to talk Inhumans because you are an eyewitness to the glory or the folly that is the cross-pollination of the Marvel Entertainment Universe.
All right. Well,
I'll try and be close so that if I don't have the other things, at least here. Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. As always, your beleaguered host, Charles, the Professore Essore. And with me, as always, is the man who actually does the work of this podcast while I sit around drinking apple juice and wandering about my own thoughts.
Rob Southgate. I mean, Phil Perich.
Oh, yes. Phil, never make yourself subordinate to Rob unless Rob's in the room.
Hey, he edits these, so he's always kind of in the room.
Yeah, I don't know how much he really edits this stuff, you know. I think it's like, yeah, so they didn't tell me there were any swear words in this week, so I'm just gonna.
I in fact love our Southgate overlords.
I love Rob Southgate. Rob Southgate gave me my big break. I posted on my Facebook, my actual Superconnectivity Facebook today. Because today, 3 years ago today, Rob gave me a shout out about how cool I was. And as I said in my Facebook post, I felt like George R.R. Martin writing to Stan Lee.
And 149 episodes later, here you are.
My goodness. 149.
That's right. What big thing could we do for episode 150? Well, stay tuned later in this episode and we'll tell you.
Maybe something exciting.
There might even be a chance to win something because it's a big week next week. I have something else planned too, so other than what's happening on Superconnectivity, so
very exciting. So, Philip,
Charles,
I heard you recently saw a video entertainment in which you paid to enter a large amphitheater with other personages to gaze upward at a curved screen to see what wonders it beheld. And what wonders did it behold for you?
Well, to set this...
Phil, tell me in Perich.
To set the scene, my wife had to work on Labor Day, so me and my son went down to the IMAX theater, and we were sitting up, so we stared across at the big screen. But we saw the first 2 episodes of Inhumans in IMAX.
And were they as awful as we have been telling people all this time? Are they the worst things Marvel has ever done, and they should be ashamed of themselves, as we have insisted would be the case?
I wouldn't say it doesn't deserve all the crap it's getting. Is it the best thing ever? No. But, I mean, could it have been maybe if they had made a movie out of it? And could it be bigger? Could it be like the Marvel Game of Thrones with superpowers and less nudity? Maybe. But,
less nudity? Really?
It's Marvel. It was owned by Disney. You really think they're gonna throw nudity in there?
I paid good money. No, I wanted a Black Bolt. I wanted to see Lockjaw naked. Well, actually, we got to see Lockjaw naked, so that works. So
hey, we get it. We kind of almost get that in the first episode. The first time we see Black Bolt Medusa, they are in bed, but her hair is covering both of them.
Oh, they did stuff with the hair.
Yeah, I mean, when she was actually thinking about it, the hair does move, and it looked good. Like when
they're going very front burn with the hair.
Yeah, although yes and no, because at one point she gets mad at Maximus. Spoilers are going to be spoilers here. She gets mad at Maximus, and you could see it kind of like start coming up, you know, like entering attack mode, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, but yeah, like you said, we saw it in the big, huge IMAX screen, and the effects look good. I
So
mean,
here's a question for you, Phil. Was it worth the $272 you spent for you and Luca to go see it? Or was it less than that?
it was less than that. No, I enjoyed it, and I think he enjoyed it. It was an hour and I think 21 minutes or something. And plus, we got to see the trailer for Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther in IMAX, which those look even better in IMAX.
Oh well, maybe that's how they make their money back.
Exactly.
They trick you into going to see an IMAX film, and they say, "Oh, by the way, you know those things that we also have coming? They're even better in freaking IMAX."
But the thing I
And then
understand,
you're going to go see Thor in IMAX, and then you're going to see something else in IMAX. I said, "Oh, okay. I just got to see all movies in IMAX from now on."
the thing I understand though is like, the reports are like, oh, that the weekend take was horrible for Inhumans. But yes, because I don't think they. I mean, yeah, I know there's only a certain amount of IMAX theaters, but it's like I know the day we went, there was only like 3 showings. I think we went to the first one at 4:50 p.m. So I was like, really? Yeah. It was Labor Day. Like I said, it was Labor Day weekend, so you'd think,
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to tell you, I don't think anyone who did this film. I think this was always intended to be a loss leader. If you're familiar with the term from the retail game, which is that you'll sell something at a loss because it's going to build interest to come in and see what else you have to show. So, for example,
I mean, so what you're saying is like, I mean, a lot of the publicity it got wasn't good, but it did get the word of mouth out there. I mean, if you were on social media, you saw Inhumans all over the place.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Marvel, that's in the fixed budget. That's actually true. That's not even a variable expense. They say, okay, what's the budget for Inhumans? Okay, that's the budget for Inhumans. We're putting that social, or we're doing that video. So, yeah, do it all social, because I really have not seen an ad for Inhumans on a TV screen, which makes sense because it is actually a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I mean,
ABC, yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Well,
I was going to say, I mean, go. You go. No, I was just going to say, I mean, it wasn't horrible. The movie wasn't as big as it could have been. I mean, it's much smaller scale. I think it's on level, I think, with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, I know you like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's I'd say it's on par with that. It's more, if you're expecting like this big grandiose soap opera, this cosmic thing, I mean, they're on the moon.
Well, look,
but it reminded me more of X-Men mutants, but instead it's Inhumans.
Well, yeah, I mean they've done. I mean that's what Marvel does, because they're not allowed to call things mutants. Not everyone's an Inhuman, including Manifold, which I was reading a great thing on CBR today about, like, MCU characters you didn't know were in the MCU. Because like apparently Nighthawk has made 2 appearances in the MCU, even in Daredevil, because Kyle Richmond didn't show at Wilson Fisk's party. So there's a lot of characters out there, but there is a reference. I forget which thing it was, but they mentioned that the Australians had captured a Inhuman by the name of Eden Fosse, and that's of course Manifold's real name. But getting back to the idea of the Inhumans, I go up and down on the Inhumans. I'm mad at their showrunner, because their showrunner made a whole big stink about, no, Lockjaw's just a dog. And it's like, why do you kill that mystery? Even if you're going to say, oh, he's a super dog, it's like you've killed the mystery. The whole point of Lockjaw is Lockjaw has always been an ambiguous character, whether or not he was an animal or whether or not he was something else. And for what it's worth, later writers have actually addressed this idea that not every Inhuman comes out right. There was a whole thing, I think it was a couple of years ago, they did an Inhumans, one Inhuman, like one of the reboots of Inhumans. I think I'd say it had to be like 3 or 4 years ago. And I picked it up, and like one of the plot lines was how excited everyone because one of the young Inhumans who went to the Terrigenesis became a natural flyer, and so rare we had a natural flyer. And then one of them, who's like, you know, big man on campus, he came out as an alpha primitive, and it was this idea.
They kind of play with that in this show. Like in the first episode, they're having like their whole big Terrigenesis, you know, ceremony that they have, and there's a young boy and a young girl. I don't know if they were brother and sister or not, if they were related or not, but like they each go into the chamber, you know, the Terrigen mist comes up and they're like, you know, show us what you got. And like you were saying, like natural flyers, the girl comes out and she has like these pretty like butterfly wings or something. And they're like,
oh yeah, just like in the book, just like that book I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, natural flyer, you know, Crystal, Gorgon. They're all like, oh, I love natural flyers, blah, blah, blah. Then the boy comes out and like he has no abilities. And that's like that's one of the big plot points is, I guess, if you don't come out with powers, they're like, oh, you're just a normal human. Because like everyone throws that in no wonder Maximus, spoilers, Maximus like throws a coup and tries to overthrow the royal family. And no wonder, because like everyone like throws it in his face in this episode. They're like, oh, you're just a human. And supposedly, well, you know, Maximus is Black Bolt's brother. That's the only reason why he doesn't go with the rest of the people who don't get powers into the mines below the city, which they're on the moon. They're on the moon. I don't know what they're mining.
Well, there's actually there's theoretically lots of amazing natural resources on the moon. We just, it's real hard to get to because it's the freaking moon. You know?
I mean, that's kind of how Maximus gets the people behind him, because again, this is full spoilers. I mean, most of the royal family gets to Earth, and Maximus he captures Crystal and Lockjaw when he comes back to get Crystal. Because I'm glad they don't play. I mean, I'm glad.
Is Maximus the hero of this story?
Well, that's how they're I mean, that's how he's playing it to the people, because you know he captures Crystal and Lockjaw.
Well, I mean, the others on Earth, he's a self-aggrandizing hero, but you know.
Well, he tells the people. He says he you know the royal family runs so they don't get captured, and he says, "Oh, the royal family's abandoned us," and he's like, you know, I'm just like you. He's like, I have no powers. You know, I think. He kind of doesn't come. He doesn't say. He doesn't come
Maximus
out and say it,
does have powers.
Yeah, but he plays it off.
Maximus has hate monster powers. He's like Psycho Man.
He doesn't come out and say it, but he kind of like makes it like, you know, I don't have powers like you. We're gonna abolish this whole mining thing. And well, the episode 1 starts out with Triton on Earth, and he's looking for people who have been, you know,
who've gone through Terrigenesis.
Yeah, on Earth.
Thanks to fish oil.
And he gets
Get your omega-3s, kids.
And he gets attacked. So later, Black Bolt through Medusa has to tell the rest of the royal family, yeah, I sent Triton to Earth. And they're like, oh yeah, to bring back the rest of these people who've gotten, you know, because they mentioned the whole thing about poisoning the water supply with the Terrigen mist and the fish and everything. Yeah. And the fish. And and they're like, oh okay, and you know, because they're descendants of the Inhumans that stayed behind when the rest of us came to the moon. So Black Bolt's like, I want to bring all our brothers and sisters back. And Maximus is even like, wait a minute, we're under a dome with limited space, and you're going to bring a ton of people up here. You know, we're already like short on resources and space, and you're going to bring a ton of people up here. He's like, I know Maximus wants to conquer, but he kind of like, he's like,
he comes off as like the rational one of this whole story. It sounds like Maximus. You know what, man? I'm wondering if they're going to work in a Maximus redemption arc in the comic books now.
I don't know, because I know he wants to conquer, but he's kind of like, instead of bringing them all here, he's like, why don't we all go to Earth?
Yes.
And you know, and of course the royal family.
You know,
they're like watching all the video feeds stuff. They're like, oh, Earth is too chaotic and all this. Yeah. And
you know what? Someone's going to point out there's some great real estate just opened up in the Himalayas. You know, used to be a city called Kunlun, just disappears, goes away every 13 years. We might have like arranged things, but dude, it's like right there, very hidden. We can put ourselves right there, you know.
But yeah, I mean, we kind of get like a quick flashback. They reveal Black Bolt accidentally killed his parents when he was younger, when he first got his powers. I don't know what they were telling him, but he goes, He goes, why? And you just see the parents become a smear on the wall.
Yeah.
And then Maximus says something to Medusa later about, I guess they have Maximus and Medusa have some kind of shared history, and he's like, how would your family feel about you being the queen of the royal family that they so despised and stuff?
Because
and your favorite, you were worried about Medusa not getting to do enough. They paint her as, she is the power behind the figurehead of Black Bolt. They definitely play into that. And before Lockjaw comes to get her and takes her to Earth, because Lockjaw takes everyone to Hawaii and separates them. Nice vacation plans. But no, that's when Maximus shaves her head. Spoilers, shaves her head and looks like regular, electric clippers like we have on Earth. I don't know where they got it, but yeah, he shaves her head, and then later when she gets to Earth, he sends his henchwoman after her, and she kicks butt. That's what you wanted. You get it.
Yeah, well, that's good. We want Medusa to actually come into her own. We want her to be the emotional arc. It makes me now wonder if maybe the problem is that their advertising was too sexist, even if their story wasn't. Maybe just we can't have the girl be the hero, and it's like, but no, it's written because it's the girl's the hero, and it's like that's from the books. It's the girl's the hero. The girls are always the protagonists of the Inhuman storyline. Whether it's Crystal or whether it's Medusa, these are the two characters that have the interactions with the main characters. But,
the trailers made it look like Black Bolt, that it was a mainly Black Bolt story. I would say Medusa gets at least as much as him, maybe a little more.
Well, yeah, that's what it should be. Black Bolt isn't a good character.
I like the casting. They did good casting on all the royal family, but oh my god, Karnak's such a bummer, man. Because there's like one point some Inhuman woman's hitting on him, and he's like, "Oh, what's the point?" He's like, "We'll all be dead in a couple million years, and black holes will suck up the entire universe, and it'll be like, what's the point?"
Well, that's a pretty lame answer. Not for nothing. When you say what's the point, it's like, well, the point is that in the moment there is a positive, and maybe in a dozen other moments there'll be positives. It's like saying, well, everything will go to heck. Well, it's like, well, of course everything is. Entropic doom, as I always say, the secret to happiness is understanding and internalizing two concepts. Don't sweat the small stuff, and entropic doom is inevitable.
But
because compared to entropic doom, all things are small.
And
so don't worry about that small stuff. And entropic doom, don't worry about it because it's inevitable.
And there's a cool scene where they show like Karnak using his powers because like Maximus sends his guys to like take him into custody or kill him, and then they show like the big fight scene, and Karnak appears to be killed, and then I guess it was all in Karnak's head. He's like, they show him like figuring out angles and stuff. He's like, okay, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Yeah, I read about that as a description of his power, and it sounds pretty cool. It's like, although it's kind of like that Nicolas Cage film. What was it called? What was that Nicolas Cage film where you can like see 3 seconds into the future?
I don't know if I saw that one.
Oh, well, I don't think anyone actually saw it. But I think it might be called Blink. It's something, but it's basically Nicolas Cage has this power where he sees every possible outcome, and then he can make the right choice. Because he sees, oh, if I go left, this and this happens, and then I die. And I go right, and this happens, and I die. And and of course, I'm sure it comes to a day tomorrow. It's like every choice is wrong. What do we do? And it says we make our own choices, and then they do something, and nobody dies.
But and your big question, you're like, how the Inhumans gone undetected? They have some kind of cloaking dome over the city, Charlie, because NASA has like a rover right in front of it, and it still can't detect it. The only reason NASA's like, wait a second, we're getting a collision alert because it's hitting the dome, but they're still like, there's nothing there. And then you see Gorgon's hoof come down and crush it.
Yeah. Oh, Gorgon.
And Karnak's even like, you think that was like a wise thing to do? You're going to alert them to our presence, because I guess he's done it before to other rovers. And he's like, I'm chief of security. He's like protecting the city.
Yeah, but I think Karnak makes a point there, because obviously it's like, one rover malfunctioning, maybe we need to figure out a way to not have the rovers come here in a much more subtle manner, rather than saying every time a rover goes to that space, it gets destroyed. What's there that's destroying our rovers? Let's send another rover,
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Gorgon is definitely the hothead because they all have like these wristwatch communicators, and like, the rest of the royal family's trying to hide on Earth, so till they can figure out what to do about Maximus. But Gorgon just calls Maximus and says, "Okay, I'm leaving my channel open. You can track me. Come and get me."
Yeah, because he likes to fight.
Then meanwhile, Black Bolt just shoplifts a expensive suit, trashes a police car, and gets arrested.
Yeah, that's
practical. The cops are beating him, and he he opens his mouth, I guess, in pain, and like sends a police car flying.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, less Black Bolt. See, what I want to see now is I would love to see the buddy comedy of Karnak and Gorgon.
Oh yeah,
who have always been one's clean, one messy. I mean, Marvel doesn't do enough with its secondary characters. They only want to do secondary characters that like have an established presence. But I think if they really like that great writer David Walker did when he did Occupy Avengers and took some obscure characters like Wheels Walensky and Tilda Johnson. I always want to say that other Tilda's lady's name. Oh, Tilda Johnson. And really made people that you want to say, oh, yeah, that and Red Wolf, you got to take those B-list characters because those are where you thrive. You take that B-list and you have them step up and say, actually, I'm not really B-list. I'm actually way more threatening than you imagine. And that's cool, So, yeah, I would love to, just like I want to see the Lady Sif Volstagg buddy comedy, I totally want to see Gorgon and Karnak. Yeah, traveling the American Southwest, looking for trouble. Wandering like so much David Banner in Peacoat, trying to find their next adventure.
So yeah, I mean, is Inhumans everything it could be? Probably not. I mean, especially when it could have been a movie. But again, this was only the first 2 episodes. It kind of ends on a cliffhanger. It's Maximus in power, telling the people what they want to hear. Most of the royal families on Earth, and
here's the thing, because I haven't seen these yet. When do they premiere? When do I get to start tweeting about this nonsense?
I believe the first episode is September 29th. It's a Friday.
Okay. Because here's what I'm going to say. It's like, I get Maximus, he's a political manipulator. But if he does good, because here's the thing, from what you're saying, it sounds like, the oppression of the alpha primitives was to some extent based on the idea that they were very primitive beings, like literally primitives, which doesn't make it right in any conceivable sense of the word. But it was sort of like when you fight robots and you don't worry about the fact that, well, it is an AI that feels pain. Make them humans, you just didn't have enough Inhuman DNA or technically, I guess, enough Kree DNA to carry you through. It makes for the statement that, the Inhumans are awful slaveholders. And granted, they were always awful slaveholders. So it's an interesting question because it's like, are they just shining a light on how awful the Inhuman society has always been? Or are they kind of ruining it by making it seem much worse? But then again, like I said, maybe it's just that it's always been that evil and we've just sort of gave it a pass for so long. Maybe in that sense, maybe it's so much more poignant doing it this way, where we say, no, when the kid in the comic book becomes an alpha primitive, which is a great bit because he becomes an alpha primitive, but he's also psychically aware. you have this whole thing with Maximus being able to talk to him, and it's sort of the same concept. So I'm going to recommend anyone who wants to know more about the Inhumans, look at the Inhuman series that came out before, probably right when Marvel first tried to make Inhumans a thing. So this like predates, the Terrigenesis bomb and all this kind of stuff. So it has to be pre-World War Hulk. So when did World War Hulk come out? All time runs together for me now.
Didn't they start that around wasn't that around the time of the first Civil War? Because that way they got Hulk out of the way, so neither side had a Hulk.
Yeah, so it had to be. So I think it was the event between Civil War, and so I think it was. So we did Civil War, then World War Hulk.
Wait, Planet Hulk. Then they did Planet Hulk, and then World War Hulk.
Yeah, well, I think Planet Hulk was occurring at the same time as Civil War.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong. But anyway, so yeah, but but they did this story on the Inhumans, and I wish I'd read more of it, because it's me, it's like I get a bunch of books, It's like I got too many books. Who gets cut? And the Inhumans got cut. Well, now I wish I'd read more of it, but this was the basic premise. It was this idea that Maximus is going to look at the fact, and Maximus has always looked at the fact that Inhumans were pretty evil melon farmers, that basically the people in charge of the Inhumans are not good people in the slightest. They're actually horrifyingly evil people. And the real question was, Maximus wishes to free the Alpha Primitives, but does he wish to do so because for moral reasons, or does he wish to do so simply to make himself better? But at the same time, if you free the Alpha Primitives, doesn't that actually accomplish its purpose? Although, at the same time, we're coming at that from that mortal perspective where people die. So if one man frees the Alpha Primitives for his own aggrandizement, but then dies, 60 years later, and a society with, free and equal Alpha Primitives goes forward, does anyone really care that he didn't have the most pure motives, Because the outcome was the benefit, Maximus, we will be debating you for another 1,000 years, I'm sure. Okay. So what else is in the world of comic books and movies these days? Phil, do you have more to say about Inhuman?
No, I think I hit.
Because I'm excited. I'm going to say I'm genuinely excited about Inhumans. I really am. I mean, I got mad when the guy was doing his whole Black Boat's just a dog. Why would you think he was anything other than a dog? He looks like a dog and he goes bark. Meanwhile, Eldrak apparently features in the series, and Eldrak's a door. And you're gonna tell me, oh, is Eldrak in it?
Yeah, that's how. Well, since they don't Lockjaw's cooperation, that's how Maximus's henchwoman sends herself to Earth. Yeah, it's like a big face on like a wall, and I guess he says, it hurts him anytime he does it, and she even says, she's like, "You're sending me to Earth. If you try anything funny, your family's dead." So.
Yeah. Oh, great. And like I said, but like the idea that Eldrak became a door, that is so much less believable than, the true king of the Inhumans, Lockjaw, Black Bolt's elder brother, turned into a dog.
Well, you could tell they're playing Lockjaw just a dog, because he's basically like Crystal's pet. So I'm glad he's not like an actual Inhuman, or else that'd be kind of like,
Yeah, but
just treat this guy like an animal.
You know what I'll say is maybe that's because what he wanted to be was he didn't want the pressure of the royal family. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why Black Bolt became silent, because his brother was like, you know what, I never wanted to be king. They're going to make me king. I don't want to be king. And when Terrigenesis came, he said, I would rather be anything than a king. And Terrigenesis said, really? And Black Bolt, and you know what? And at the end of the day, I think Black Bolt said, yeah, you know what? Still a dang sight better than being king. And Black Bolt, when he had to go in, after his elder brother gets turned into a dog, and he comes out and he just becomes silent, because he'll be king, but he doesn't want to have to say anything. And then he finds Medusa, and Medusa's like, I'll do your talking for you, sweetheart. Because I've always felt that she was always, I it's always that very interesting question. How much of Black Bolt's rule is Medusa ruling with, the officiated penis next to her? Say, this is the penis that gives me power, and I will speak for him now. You can say penis on the radio. It's okay. It's a perfectly phallic term. And it is her saying, this is what gives me power, so you all have to respect me now, even though I am a woman. Because I get the feeling Inhuman culture kind of probably pretty backwards.
Well, like
they're gonna do the many colors of Benetton for the royal family, but still, it's still a royal freaking family.
Well, like I said, I mean, Maximus even makes the comment to her to like, what would your family think of you being the queen of the royal family that they despise so much?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if her parents had no powers.
Maybe.
It's an interesting thing. If we actually look at if we think about what Inhumans are, and if we're assuming that it is this imposition of this weird, like, X Factor DNA into their bloodstreams, yet they still maintain a human form, it becomes this quality that isn't always going to breed true. Because as anyone who's ever done a Punnett square, your old, do we get wrinkly peas or smooth peas? We got 2 bits from the father, 2 bits from the mother. We mix them. But if only one of those bits has the Kree, and the other 2 bits just have the human, then yes, you're going to get a human. And then for the Inhumans to say, well, because we are powered and you are not, you go to the mines. It is so much worse than when it was just, oh, you're an alpha primitive. It's like, then it's like, well, you're not human either. You're not an Inhuman. You're not a human. You're basically a Neanderthal. Though Neanderthals, by some assessments, had greater emotional intelligence than humans, based on where the larger parts of their brain cavities are. Inhumans are awful people. And Maximus is the hero of the story. So I'm glad we got that settled. Looking forward to this series. Can't wait to tweet about how,
make Adelan great again.
Yes, Maximus is going to make Adelan great again. Oh, goodness. Donald Trump, you're such a wacky guy. Oh. Hey, he's a Democrat now. Him and Nancy and Chuck, they're best friends, and they're gonna do stuff now.
I love.
Gonna go golfing.
I love that meme I sent you today. That it's like it seems like Trump, like what is it? Disavowed climate change, and the environment said, "Here, hold my beer."
Yeah, I've seen that one as well. Yeah, well, you know what it is. I mean, climate change. Here's going to tell you about all this stuff. It's less climate change and more people wanting to build in low-lying areas.
Yeah.
Because they've known these places were low. Because here's the thing. I mean, the floods are a lot worse now. Don't get me wrong. They're way worse than they used to be. But they're also way, way worse because now everyone built in those places that everyone knew flooded. So it's like, yes, before you'd get like 2 feet of water, now you get 6 feet of water.
Well, yeah, with like polar ice caps melting too, sea levels going up too.
Yeah. Well, polar ice caps, wind, and what they're actually saying is like much like that storm we had last year. And what was that? Was it like, it wasn't like a hurricane, it was just like a storm that didn't stop. It was like a deluge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 40 days and 40 nights of rain in some red state, because it turns out all the red states are by the water. They get all the rain.
The Capes and Lunatics care.
We're planning on that.
The Capes and Lunatics care about Florida, especially because one of our own is down there.
Yeah. I'm worried about tomorrow morning's broadcast because it's like it's hitting and she's there and it's like I hope she gets to participate.
She said
Wi-Fi works in a hurricane.
Well, Lilith said if they had to evacuate, they were going north to Georgia or something. But yeah, so if they got to get out, she's getting out. But
how far? Well, yeah, if she can get on the roads,
Yeah, that's
If you're
true. I mean,
evacuating now, you're kind of in a rough spot. I don't know exactly how far south she is.
yeah, I'm not sure, but she was fine today because she was complaining about the CWDC shows. So she's.
I think that Lilith could be, in the fiery pits of hell, and she was pretty saying, you know what? I don't really think Barry and Iris make a believable couple.
Did you see on the messenger? I said that's why she's the best. She's in the middle of that tornado, that hurricane. She's already she's still talking about the CW shows, and she goes, maybe the rain will cool my temper, and the wind could blow away my petty ways, but not likely.
No, not likely at all. She is the irresistible force to the storm's movable object, or vice versa. Speaking of Lilith, I do have to say I did do a page count this week. 14 pages of ads at the end of Archie's. Two of which were ads. Were ads that were paid. Marvel put an ad in there, and I think they were both Marvel ads, but maybe one was a. I don't think one was a candy ad, but yeah. But basically, 14 pages, but at least 12 pages, which is more than Lionforge did. And again, it's just Archie, write a story, don't write ads. Okay,
that has been Charlie Esser's weekly ad count report.
Yeah, you know what? I'm telling you, man, it's not a way to sell comics. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. Like, maybe some people look at the first few pages. I always look at the back few pages. I'm not afraid of spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what that big reveal is. That's why I bought Generations of Riri Williams when she goes to the future to meet Iron Man, which is a great way to play that game.
Right.
Goes to the future and meets the next Avengers, which is cool.
I think it's 126-year-old Tony Stark, who's the Sorcerer Supreme. That man will not die.
Is he the Sorcerer Supreme in that? I haven't read any of my comic books yet this week.
Yeah, he's like the Doctor Strange. Yeah.
So they tied into the Doctor Infamous Iron Man story.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, it makes sense. I mean, he is Tony Stark, and magic is just science that people haven't written down yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about the magic. Is like, any scientist who rejects magic is an idiot. Because if it works, you say, oh, okay, so that's obviously something that works. See, Fitz doesn't reject magic ever. When you see Fitz encountering Asgardian technology, he doesn't go, oh, it's magic. How could I ever understand? He says, oh, okay, well, let me look at how this works. Let me get an electron microscope on this and see what exactly I'm looking at. It's like, oh, that's what I'm looking at. Okay. Let's fix this and give it back to these poor, humbled Asgardians who are like, oh, a human fixed our super advanced device? Okay. Because humans are best. Yes. So sad that I really hope there's going to be more time. I'm glad there's going to be tie-ins between Inhumans and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I mean, it's natural. I mean, they were talking about the people on Earth getting their power through the fish oil and stuff. So I mean, it's there. So.
Fish oil. I mean, here's what I'm going to say about the fish oil issue is that they did walk it back and say, actually, it's not just fish oil. It's that it's gotten into the entire water and air supply, and so it is out there. And I don't think they ever said that Lash. I forget his character's name. I forget the actor's name. It's been one of the movies on Law and Order. Got exposed to it when they were on vacation. That they were on the island waters, and that's when he got exposed, and that's when he became an Inhuman. Because I believe just after it, you saw that May put the red bikini in her bag, and that was to say that her and her ex were getting back together, and they went there, and he came back an Inhuman. Because May can't catch a break.
But did you see the big news today? The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. news.
What's the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. news?
Oh, what's the actor's name? The guy who plays Hunter is coming back.
Oh yeah, Lance is back.
Yeah.
I prefer Mockingbird, but I guess so. Okay.
Yeah, but didn't she? She's on a new shit. She's on that that new Seth.
Oh, she's on Orville.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited about Orville. Don't get me wrong. You know, the thing with Seth MacFarlane is I think Seth MacFarlane is a guy who gets one really great season in any of his ideas. And then he kind of retreads the same jokes or subtle variations on the same jokes, but they're still the same jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you liked the joke the first time, you probably still like it 20 years later. That's one of the Simpsons trick. It's like, yeah, it's, you know, Homer's still stupid, but, you know, Bart's still a crazy guy. Lisa's still a little more mature for her age. And
I mean,
Marge is the girl.
I have nothing against the Simpsons, but it's like, how much longer is that thing gonna go? I mean, when that started, I mean, there wasn't that much difference between me and Bart Simpson's age, and I'm gonna be 40 next year. So
I know. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. It won't be when Matt Groening dies.
Want to stop making money?
It's gonna take well, obviously, if that could happen, yes. Yeah. But when Yeardley Smith dies, that's when it ends. You mark my words, Yeardley Smith is the glue that holds the Simpsons. You don't think about it now. Yeardley Smith, who plays Lisa, she is what holds the whole show together. And if Yeardley Smith is not there, there will be no more Simpsons. If Yeardley Smith ever decides, I don't want to do Simpsons anymore, or Yeardley Smith actually just, you know, stops. If anything bad ever happens to Yeardley Smith, there is no Simpsons. Okay? Because everybody else is a voice. Yeardley Smith is Yeardley Smith. And I don't think any human being on earth could it's like Sarah Vowell. No one can really do a Sarah Vowell. And it's like, if you get Sarah Vowell to do something, you can't do that without Sarah Vowell. Same thing with Yeardley Smith.
Yeardley Smith is always the glue. Look at Herman's head.
Oh, man, she was so much the glue in Herman's head. I miss Herman's head. That was such a great show. The only reason I watch Blackish is because IQ is on it. Hey, show. I mean, honestly, I'm not a big fan of Anthony Anderson. Everyone else is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But it's like everyone else and IQ make that show. And then Anthony Anderson, he shows up. Like, hey, I'm that guy from Law and Order and Kangaroo Jack. Yeah.
He's the blackboard of Blackish.
Yeah, well, you know what? Not really. The guy has one character. He's Anthony Anderson. I defy you to tell me the difference between Anthony Anderson and Blackish, Anthony Anderson and Kangaroo Jack, and Anthony Anderson in Law and Order. Was he on Special Victims or was he on
regular Law and Order?
Okay. I defy you to tell me what. I mean, granted, he gets more serious in Law and Order.
Yeah.
But you're going to tell me that's just not Anthony Anderson as a cop.
Hey,
like, I'm Anthony Anderson. Yeah.
Isn't that all our dreams? You know, do people pay you to be yourself?
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, you know, the only difference is that no one else can be Yeardley Smith when she's herself. I think there's about 20 actors who could be Anthony Anderson.
Oh man,
that's why. Honest, I'm gonna throw some shade and hate on Anthony Anderson. He can come here and talk to me to my face if he so wants to. Anthony Anderson, please call us at 812-36-CAPES. Is that it? Or
614-382-2737.
So that's 614-38-CAPES. Anthony, I'm calling you out. Nice. Doing that reverse psychology thing. You know, I'm sure he listens.
Don't call us, Anthony Anderson. That's reverse psychology.
Oh no! I mean, I've seen pretty much every vehicle that Anthony Anderson has been in, which is how I know that Kangaroo Jack is something he was in. So obviously, I'm a bit of a fan. Even if sometimes I am going to downplay his contribution to the product because I think that sometimes he's more of a straight man. He's much more the Abbott to everyone else's Costello, even though you'd imagine, due to his girth, that he'd be the Costello. He's much more the Abbott. And I think that's an important point to think, that fat men can be Abbotts too. Although, I want to say, he's not fat anymore. He's now buff. He's buff like I'm buff since I started walking to get my beer every day. He's buff in the sense that, I lost 100 pounds when I weighed 300, or 400 in my case. But, it's like, I'm down to morbidly obese. I'm no longer fatally obese. I'm merely morbidly.
This show's a mess without our producer.
Yeah, well, the producers are gone, man. I got no producers today and tomorrow, man.
Oh, man, easy.
I got no producers. Okay. Okay, you want to wrap some stuff up? I just got like 3 big things to point out.
Go ahead. No, good.
I got one big thing to point out. Okay. So we announced the account, the thing that posted last week about, hey, say what you think the character's back. I'm going to say this week, because this is not going to post for another week. The character who comes back is obviously Frank from Beyond. And the way you're going to know it's Frank from Beyond, here's the thing. Now, I've been saying, it's going to be this, it's going to be the Beyonder. How they play the Beyonder is going to be a question, but here's what to look for to know that the Beyonder is coming. Look for a guy in a blue suit with a black tie with blonde hair. You're going to see a guy looking awkward in the background with a blue suit and a black tie. When in Secret Wars 2, issue 2, I believe it is, that's where the Beyonder first takes, after he takes Captain America's form. And he meets the hooker and the mobster, and he winds up taking over the entire universe because he's the Beyonder and he can just do that kind of nonsense. And then realizes how empty it is to take over the universe, even if it's a universe with suddenly Transformers existing in it, even though the Transformers weren't technically part of the Marvel Universe at that time. But,
Spider-Man was in Transformers number 3.
Yeah, I know. It was this weird thing. It's like they did these crossovers, but then they kind of pushed it. Same thing with G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe showed up in a couple of Marvel comics, too. But they were always very careful about that because they knew they didn't own the rights. After the whole Fu Manchu fiasco, they started getting a little more careful. They thought they'd keep Conan forever, but, that's sad. I miss Conan in the Marvel Universe, and we're going to discuss that with someone who has done some Conan reference things, in my opinion, in the near future. How big of a fan of that person was of Conan the Barbarian and his crossovers into the Marvel Universe. But moving right along, no, watch it, because when he first comes back, he wears this blue suit with this black tie, and to me, that's always the Beyonder. Like the old Michael Jackson hair, Captain EO look, that's not the Beyonder to me. To me, the Beyonder is the blue suit, black tie, blonde hair when he's still trying to understand things. When he gets too much in his own head and he just becomes another character, when he loses touch with the Beyond, basically, he stops being the Beyonder in some ways to me. But when he's still like, I am from beyond, I'm from beyond, I am from somewhere else, I'm trying to understand what I'm doing. When he's just the enfant terrible of that Stan Lee loved to put it into his comic books back in the day. People forget that so much of Secret Wars is callback to the early Fantastic Fours, where the Fantastic Four would meet this like alien being that was basically a god, and they were trying to dealing with this being that was not a horrible being, but just is so separate from our experience that they have to try and deal with it, and that's what the Beyonder was.
It could be worse. Spider-Man taught him how to use the bathroom.
Yeah, well, because he had just gotten bowels, Not for nothing, Phil. When you first got bowels, you had a hard time using the bathroom too, didn't you?
Yes, I know.
Let's face it. Every one of us, none of us, at 3 months old, wandered into the bathroom, took off the diaper, climbed on up there, and did our business. No, we all just said, you know what?
As explained
that's
in
where
that
it goes.
As explained in that great piece of American literature, everyone poops.
And to that extent, let's say that is how advanced the Beyonder is he knows not to poop his pants. He goes to Spider-Man saying, Spider-Man, I'm having this weird feeling, and I know whatever's about to happen, it's not a good thing. How do I deal with this? And Spider-Man teaches him how to use the bathroom. But before that, it's not like it's not, here's the thing. The Beyonder is a guy who's eating freaking glass ketchup bottles when he's hungry.
Ooh.
And yet, still, he knows, I'm not going to poop my pants.
I don't know if I'm eating glass. I don't know if I want to go. But, I mean, hey, if Frank from Beyond, the Beyonder, needs a new body, if he wants a new Steve Rogers body, we have an extra one floating around out there, one created by a cosmic cube.
Yes, and we do see that in Secret Empire Omega, we do see that Steve Rogers goes to meet Steve Rogers. And I think that's going to be a good conversation. I don't know what's going to happen from that. I don't know if they're going to merge at the end of it, because I think they feel drawn to each other. I think they do feel like opposite sides of the same coin. That they both now have existence is just weird and crazy, and it's very exciting. See, I liked Secret Empire. I liked the stuff that Marvel's been doing.
I mean, if they keep Hydra Cap around, he's like the ultimate villain now, because, I mean, if he has Steve Rogers' memories, I mean, he knows all the strengths and weaknesses of the Avengers. Basically, most of the superheroes out there, he knows, like, their strengths and weaknesses. He has all these government secrets in his head.
Are you saying he is the Batman of the Marvel Universe?
Well, let's see. There's an evil version of Captain America floating around in the DC event Dark Knight's Metal. They're going to be introducing evil Batman of the Dark Multiverse. They
really just flipped the map over, huh? Just stole that right out of freaking Stranger Things.
They always do. I mean, especially with Captain America and Batman, they're always doing that to each other. Because, I mean, when I forget who came back first, when they brought Jason Todd back from the dead as the Red Hood, then Bucky Barnes came back as the Winter Soldier. When they killed Steve Rogers and he got lost in time, guess what happened to Batman? Everyone thought he was dead. He was lost in time.
They really are, honestly, they're the two sides of the same coin.
And when they were both lost in time, believed dead, their first sidekicks took over for them. Bucky the Winter Soldier became the new Captain America, and Dick Grayson became Batman.
And you know what? I'm going to tell you this. This is how they really are the two opposite. Steve Rogers was a poor kid growing up in a impoverished city. His parents died of natural causes, and then he became a hero. Batman is a rich kid growing up in impoverished cities whose parents both died of unnatural causes, and he became a hero. They really are the exact opposite characters, which is why it's kind of interesting that when they did Amalgam, and me and Maz did a whole thing, because Maz had never heard of the Amalgam universe, and I introduced him to that last time. He was like, "Oh my gosh, he's Googling it. That is so amazing. They did a Batman-Wolverine crossover. That's amazing." But a Batman Captain America crossover. Although, you know what? I'm gonna give Alan more props. The Batman Captain America crossover, that's the comedian. It's the guy who's a little off center, who's a little bit too violent, who then decides to rebrand himself as a patriot. That's the comedian. The nihilist joke of the universe. And Batman is a nihilist joke in his own way as well. He's as much a nihilist as good old Jack Napier.
So speaking of the comedian, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's going to be in Pittsburgh this weekend.
Okay.
They're doing one of those supernatural conventions. I was looking it up. The tickets for that, I can't believe what they're charging for tickets for that thing. I mean, I think it's like over $100.
It is Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
That's true. But
or is that just for general admission? Or is that to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
I think he's only going to be there one day, maybe Sunday, but all the other days too. I think tickets are like over $100.
Oh,
They're
God,
charging
how
up.
many bucks to go to a convention
But
nowadays?
I guess most. I don't know if it's most or all the actors from Supernatural going to be there on certain days.
So I guess if
But I
you
guess
like Supernatural, that'd be a thing.
yeah, because let's say Lilith and Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like right now you can tell me that like Bo and Luke Duke would be there, and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. I'm still not going to go see Bo and Luke Duke at you know, as much as I love all their work, and I loved Bo Duke in Smallville. It's an important thing because you never want to think Bo is the blonde. You always think Luke is the blonde because Luke Skywalker was the blonde. But actually, Bo is the blonde. Luke is the brunette. That like always tripped me up as a child until I realized to embrace the fact that it was opposite of what I expected. And now I always know that Luke is the brunette and Bo is the blonde.
You always tease me every week. Now I want a Charlie Esser Dukes of Hazzard podcast.
Oh goodness, I could talk about Dukes of Hazzard. You know what? Oh man, because I was listening to United States of Anxiety today, and they're doing this whole thing about how the normalization of Confederate culture in America. And, as a guy who was normalized to it, so here's the thing about Confederate culture in America. I do think there was a point where for many people, it was just a background. But at a certain point in history, you get to a reality where people say, you know what, it may have been just background for you, but it actually has this deeper meaning for us. And we take it to offense. And then if you're a normal human being, you go, oh, I'm sorry, my bad, I'll stop doing that. Sort of like, so as the obvious example, there are many words that have been used to describe African Americans, many of which were considered perfectly acceptable, normal, proper words to use in polite conversation. But what happens is that someone who is not being polite and proper uses that word with too much relish.
Mm-hmm.
And when they use that word with too much relish, it suddenly becomes a point where you go, I don't think that word's appropriate for us to use anymore because you seem to be enjoying it too much.
Well, plus there's people in this country, they've been raised a certain way. Depending on how big a town you come from, the people, family, friends, neighbors, whatever, may have all been a certain way, let's say, and maybe you haven't, maybe for your whole childhood, you didn't meet people,
Well, no,
you were only around one. No, and I'm just saying, and and then when people get offended, they're surprised. They're like, "Wait, what? Why are you offended?" No one I've known has ever been offended. It's like, well, yeah, you've only known one type of person your whole life.
Yeah, but you know what? I have never met a Cardassian. I'm still empathetic to Cardassian culture and Cardassian plights. I can understand them because I can imagine them as people like myself who are dealing with a very complex and difficult situation.
Charlie, there's so many people in this country. This is the big problem. There are so many people who cannot think outside the box. All they can think about is their narrow worldview.
Yeah, well, but that's not my fault, and that's not society's fault that you want to hold on to something because you no longer, And here's a great example: Pepe the Frog. Pepe the Frog was not created as a racist iconography. It came to be racist iconography because a bunch of racists started really liking Pepe the Frog, much to the chagrin of the creator of Pepe the Frog. And you know what? At a certain point, you got to say, you know what? If all those people like it, maybe there's something wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if there's not something wrong with it intrinsically, maybe there's something wrong with what it represents now. Maybe it has been soiled by those, so as an example, Rommel. Rommel was a great general and a great strategist and never was a Nazi, never joined the Nazi party, never did any of that, but he was a soldier who fought for his country in the Great War of World War II. You will not find a statue to Rommel anywhere in Germany. Because even though he is a desert fox, though he is like the one redeemable guy on that side, he still fought on that side. And no one is trying to say, hey, let's say Rommel was an okay guy. They say, well, no, Rommel fought for the Nazis, so he's not an okay guy. And the same is true for Lee, and the same is true for Jackson and everyone else. They may have been great generals. They may have been great men in their own personal interactions. You know, Lee is very famous for hating the idea of slavery. And, you know, after the war was ended, you know, making a big point that he is going to, you know, he went to church, which was now integrated in the 1860s, knelt next to an African American gentleman and took communion with him to show this is what America must be now. And you know what? That's great. But when actually the moment came that he had to make the choice, he chose wrong. He chose that I will use what I have for the continuation of slavery, not its abolition. And that is why Lee is not a good man historically. Not because he wasn't a good man personally in the moment, but because when he had that one moment, you know, as Colossus says at the end of Deadpool, there's only 2 or 3 times in your life you have to be a hero. It's not, you know, you don't wake up every morning, you eat your cereal as a hero, brush your teeth as a hero. It's 2 or 3 times when you have to say, I'm going to be a hero. And Lee and Jackson and every other general on the southern side, when they said, today will you be a hero? They said, no, I'd prefer to be the villain. For whatever personal reasons, I am going to choose the side of villainy. Because even if I find the villain's actions abhorrent, I feel my place is with villains. And Lincoln, by contrast, you know, Lincoln, by contrast, had often said he would keep slavery if it would preserve the Union. He was happy to. He didn't care. He was happy to be a villain if someone would let him be a freaking villain. But then other villains came and said, now you must choose. Are you a hero or a villain? And he said, I guess I'm a hero. You know, much like Huckleberry Finn says when he decides to help Jim escape. And he says, you know, I've been taught my whole life, if I help a slave escape, I will go to hell. He says, well, I guess I'll go to hell. Because he chooses to be a hero. And if you choose to be a hero at that moment when it doesn't benefit you to be a hero, that is what makes you a hero. It's easy to be the hero when, you know, you're fighting. You know, it's easy to be the hero when you're a fascist punching Nazis. It's harder to be the hero when you are surrounded by Nazis and you've been raised with Nazis and suddenly you have to say, oh my goodness, you guys are Nazis. And maybe we have made some bad choices in our processes. And that's that. You know, I mean, man, I don't know how we always get back to politics. But you know what? Comic books are very political. They've always been.
You're very passionate, my friend.
Well, you know, Captain America is the first guy who punched a Nazi. First American to punch a Nazi was Captain America. Look it up. Well before the war.
Wasn't Superman?
No, Superman did not involve himself with Nazis. He involved himself with other fascistic groups that were of those, you know, made up a stand and, you know, not Realberg, you know, countries like that. Yeah. He did go up to this war that was supposed to be like a, you know, 2 fascist dictators honestly, it was a very trite thing. Although still made the Nazis mad when they did it. To which they said, "Oh, it's a crazy Jewish fantasy." But that was like the closest they came. That was the closest Simon and Schuster came. Was it Simon and Schuster? It was Simon and Schuster, right?
No,
No,
was it
Simon and
Siegel?
Siegel. Siegel. I just want to say Simon because there's a book publishing company called Simon and Schuster. Simon and Siegel. That was the closest they really came during the war. Whereas Kirby and Simon said, let's just have them punch Hitler out on the cover. Let's one up them. Yeah, and not for nothing. I'm sure that was pure one-upmanship. I'm sure that was pure two young artists saying, you know what? Oh, they're gonna skirt the issue. Let's just put it right on the freaking cover. And and they got death threats over that. And Mayor LaGuardia sent police to protect them. True story, according to the internet. Yeah. But yeah, that's comic books are political, man. Because you know why? Because comic books are the zeitgeist, and the zeitgeist is always political.
Mm-hmm.
You can't separate it from the politics of the day. You can't say, oh, you can't. Here's what I'm gonna say: you can't like comic books, and then say, oh no, it's just silly entertainment. It's like, then why are you as an adult reading a silly entertainment? No one is doing an exposition about comic books as a silly entertainment.
Yeah, I was going to say
as an adult. Yeah,
I was going to say when you're a kid, you can maybe say, "Oh yeah, it's just a story," but yeah, as an adult, you're always going to read something. You should be reading something into it all the time.
And you know what? When I was a kid, I liked Bo and Luke Duke because I didn't read too much into it. But as an adult, I'm going to look at Bo and Luke Duke, and I'm going to realize that there's way more going on underneath the surface.
Yeah,
I will never say that Bo and Luke Duke were racist guys. I think they were guys who were steeped in a culture who didn't know no better. And there was an interesting way that they deal with it in the movie remake, which is not bad. Where they weren't the ones that painted the flag on the Lee. It was Cooter, and Cooter was kind of a redneck weirdo. But then I thought, well, why are ruining Cooter in that way? Can't you just have everyone be a naive idiot about these kind of things, or just set it in the 80s when naive idiocy was a little more acceptable? That's the thing. Is like there was a time when being a naive idiot, people didn't call you on it. When you talk about white privilege, that was what white privilege was. It wasn't that you were a horrible person. It's just that no one called you on your privilege.
Now they just make you president.
Well, yeah. Well,
sorry, I didn't hit that button. No.
Yeah, well, no. I honestly, I don't even think it's that. It's like right now, the people who are upset about white privilege are the people who are being called on it, who don't want to be called on. And people who don't get upset by white privilege say, "Oh, dude, you're right. I see what I did there. I heard it that time. I heard it. As the old sitcom joke goes, it's like when the guy says the thing and he goes, "Oh, no, I heard it too. Yep. I know what you're thinking. I know what you think I said, And that's a great thing, and that is the evolution of society. How long have we been doing this podcast tonight, Phil?
At least an hour. I was going to say, do you want to cut it? Because I have some big announcements to make.
Yeah, let's do some announcements. Oh, God.
All right.
We've got too much into Inhuman. Those are so exciting, these crazy Inhumans.
I know. All right. Next week, starting off, especially if you watch on YouTube Live, next Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be interviewing Kelly Thompson, who is the current writer of Hawkeye. Follow us on our social media, Capes and Lunatics on Facebook and at Capes Lunatics on Twitter.
Phil, some of us are at work at 4 in the afternoon.
I know, but some of these writers, that's the only time they can talk.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Hey, the other interview I'm about to mention, I made sure it was when you could do it. But I put up on our social media, whoever sends me the best question to ask Kelly Thompson will get a copy of Hawkeye #1's physical copy. I will send it to you. CapesLunatics@gmail.com or our voicemail 614-382-2737. And next Saturday, Superconnectivity will be at noon Eastern. Why? If you're watching live on YouTube, why? Charlie, why? For 150, episode 150, what do we have?
One of, if not the greatest comic book writer currently working in the industry today, Mr. David Walker.
David F. Walker. That's right. That's right. One of Charlie Esser's favorites. And I'm thinking maybe I'll try to
Have you read Occupy Avengers?
Oh, I've read a lot of his. Yes, Occupy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just I've actually read more of his stuff than I have. I'm just going to talk about Occupy the whole time because that was just
well,
perfect.
You read his Nighthawk stuff too.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I want to talk about Nighthawk.
See,
here's my big worry when we get. I don't want to over nerd it.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like, dude, you read way too much into this stuff. But man, I want to know, did you originally intend for the Revelator to be, the African-American Kyle Richmond from this universe? And was that what you were going for? And is he the opposite side? What are you doing here? And then, how did you, when you decided to kill Nighthawk in an off-panel scene, was that to just emphasize the inhumanity of people treating people like that, or do you just not have enough pages to really make a story of it? That's the thing. No, I had 4 pages. I had established a shot, man, and I had to get to that point. It dies off screen.
For those of you listening on the podcast, this is why you need to watch on YouTube. Charlie Esser's hands are flying everywhere. He's like, "Oh my God!"
Not for nothing, man. And I promise no apple juice during this interview. Gotta be sharp for this, man.
But
nothing but whiskey.
Follow us on like I said, follow on social media, Capes and Lunatics. Follow Superconnectivity. We're on Facebook, on Twitter at SuperConnectPod. Send me questions for David Walker too, because maybe I'll do some kind of giveaway like I'm doing with Kelly Thompson. So yeah, big week next week. I'm doing the Kelly Thompson interview, and then Saturday morning, Charlie Esser and I are talking to David Walker. And then, all right, another plug. In October, I'm sure many of you have heard Southgate Media Group is doing a podcast marathon. Well, the actual live one will be at the Blue Box in Elgin, Illinois, but there's going to be an online one, and guess where it's going to be?
My kitchen.
Day. Some of it, because it's going to be right here on the Capes and Lunatics. That's right. If you go, check out, subscribe to the Capes and Lunatics YouTube channel. You don't have to subscribe to watch it, but it would help. So you can watch the online portion of the marathon Saturday, October 7th, right here on the Capes and Lunatics YouTube channel. And speaking of the marathon, Rob Southgate has a Indiegogo campaign going to raise money because he's looking to get I guess he has an artist ready. He's looking to make posters and all that fun jazz. So go to Indiegogo, check out. I think it's the 3rd annual Southgate Media Group podcast marathon.
And there's going to be a movie this year.
Oh yeah. Anyone he wants to make a documentary about it. Yes.
Well, someone wants to make a documentary about it, and
well, I know he wants to, but there's somebody interested. So
watch for that Netflix
things, the movie, the documentary. Yeah, we need your help. I can
help
be
us, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope.
I can be the new telethon man now that Jerry Lewis is no longer with us.
Oh, that's sad.
I know. Way to bum me out. Way to bum everyone out. Hey, lady.
Yeah. Hey, lady.
I will be popular in France.
He was popular in my house. That's all I know. And I will always. I can't remember the name of it, but my favorite Jerry Lewis film was on HBO all the time when I was a kid, and it wasn't The Jerk, but it was something. It was like The Loser or The Schmuck. I forget what it was called, but it was this. It was the one with Jolly Fat's Weehawken, which is something I always call back to this day. Jolly Fat's Weehawken Airline. Where he says, "Do you have any guns before you get on the plane?" He says, "No." He says, "Would you like to buy one?" It just, because it's a very bad airplane that he's going to fly on because it's the cheapest, and honestly, it makes no sense in like any reality, but in the reality that's created for that Jerry Lewis film, it was perfect. It was like Ambush Bug or Deadpool or any of these characters that, you know, they enter into a universe and the entire universe just conforms to it. And this was before Police Squad did that and Airplane did that and made that a thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because really that whole idea that's not even breaking the fourth wall. It's just walking into a universe and having it be coalesced into your reality. You know, that was a pretty beautiful thing. That was, you know, very early in the 80s. I know, because I was a kid when it came out. It had to be out in theaters even before that. So, but yeah.
All right.
Okay, that's all I had to say.
Let's get out of here. But yeah, remember, next week, episode 150, David F. Walker meets Charlie Esser. And you get it all for free.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way and ask me any questions you want me to ask David F. Walker, write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet The Inhumans, which is a great show now, apparently, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsselCR. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Thank you.
All right.
And please.
Wait a second. Wait. Where's my plugs?
Oh, okay. No, do your plugs. I thought you were done with all your plugs.
Excuse me. No, well, no. I mean, if any
more plugs
than
Donald Trump. That's a hair plug.
How dare you? There are more plugs than Radio Shack. All right. Well, no, if you want to do an interview with the Capes and Lunatics, like Kelly Thompson or David F. Walker are going to do next week, email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com, and on Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. Like I said, send in your questions for Kelly Thompson and David F. Walker. I'll have giveaways, 614-382-2737, or capesandlunatics@gmail.com. All right, Charlie, now you may end.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, and grown-ups of all ages. Thank you for connecting with us once again, and please, super connect with us again. Good night. Welcome to
Maximus will make Adeline great again. Build that dome.
You know what? Can't make it much worse. Honestly, from the way you're describing it, it sounds like a pretty awful place to grow up. Sounds like the kind of colony Tasha Yar grew up on, you know. Remember that? Remember those first couple episodes of Next Gen when she's talking about her colony and like, oh yeah, rape gangs, and it was like, okay, thanks for that image, Tasha.
And on that pleasant note, good night.